Hi, this is Doug Manch, and you're listening to Into the Night, a Moon Knight podcast.
Yes, welcome back, Looney listeners. You are listening to Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast. This is episode 274. You're with your high pressure KHONSHU, Ray, and we've got a follow-up on our reaction review to the first episode of the TV show. And I'm very excited to have basically a lot of Looney feedback, but also the Loonies here on the podcast to share our thoughts. So joining me for the first time is a fellow podcaster as well. Can I say a rapper too? A huge Moon Knight fan. He's Frank the Tank Dukes. Patroni, Frank, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Definitely, I'm honored to be here.
Always happy, always glad to have some Loonies to chat about, especially a TV show. So this should be quite interesting. Keen to get your thoughts too. Also, as well, you would have heard him before. Another, well-versed musician. You've heard his name every episode or thereabouts. It's Drew Turntable Terms. Drew, how you going, my good man?
I'm good, man. Great to be back.
Yeah, always good to have you back, Drew. I know that you're absolutely pumped about the TV show and, of course, Moon Knight. And rounding off our little panel for this discussion is none other than the power of Chad. Chad, how you going? How you going?
I'm Peachy Keen, Ray. How about you?
I'm apricotty keen.
Apricotty.
Yeah, peachy schnapsy keen. Anyway, we are all here, Looney listeners, to talk about the Goldfish Problem, which is episode 1 of the TV show. It came out last week. We've got a new one coming out this Wednesday. What we'll do is that we're basically just going to share our thoughts. You've heard Rebecca and my thoughts in the reaction episode. I wanted to hear what all the other fans as well were thinking of this show. So invited Frank and Drew and Chad over, and the idea is every week after a reaction episode, we'll have a panel discussion where we'll go through Looney feedback as well as have other Loonies on the show as well to share, this awesome time that is being a Moon Knight fan. Before any of that, of course, sorry guys, you'll have to kind of sit through the admin. A big thank you to the patronies, such as a couple of the guys here. A big thank you to all the patronies for supporting the show. You're fantastic. It really does help the show. It's enabled me to upgrade StreamYard, so I've got a few other bells and whistles to play with. But yeah, a huge thank you to everyone. A big thank you to Drew Toombs from Toombs and Lurk Music. Go check out Bandcamp and SoundCloud. Fantastic music. Drew, I was using your music to read comics the other day as well.
That's the best news. I'm glad it worked.
It is. Oh, it's fantastic. And Frank the Tank Dukes, I'm gonna have to listen to some of yours.
Hey, if you ever need an intro or anything or any kind of whatever, let me know. I'll do one. Like a Moon Knight.
Loonies know that I'm a stingy and a sucker for freebies, so I'll put my hand up for that for sure. So a big thank you to the likes of Drew, as well as Daniel Doing from Fringe Night, Erie, Pennsylvania's very own superhero, and CLZ Comics from Collectorz.com, and Dreamland Comics from Schaumburg, Illinois. And Dukes, we've got to, as you are one of the top tier patronies as well, if there's anything that you'd like to, share or plug, maybe we'll have a discussion after the show, and definitely keen to add you on as an official sponsor for the show too.
All right, definitely.
Excellent. Awesome. Excellent. Well, without any further ado, we've got heaps of comments. I'm just going to throw us into our into our segment, which is basically a moon and stars. Okay, so what was that, Drew?
I said I hadn't seen any of these animations yet. These are great.
Yeah, I know.
Cool.
Big plug to CMK7. Beep boop, beep boop. Yes, fantastic. Let's kick it off. I don't know who to start with. I'm just so excited. How about the newest Looney on the show, Frank the Tank?
Yes.
The Goldfish Problem. Where do you want to start? What was your overall impression of it? Did you enjoy this first episode?
I personally enjoyed it, but my fear was that new people that are new to Moon Knight might not have been captured or captivated from that first episode until the end. The end kind of like, it was kind of slow, but most series start slow, so I understand that. But me, I liked it, but I was fearing that someone that's never heard of him and wanted to check it out, and they just saw this guy kind of like a wimp the whole time. They're like, this guy's nobody, I was worried about that. That was my first impression. But then I went back and re-listened to and re-watched it over and over, and it grew on me. And I was like, you know what? Actually, it's a good first impression, as long as people give a chance to the end, at least two. But it's overall, I liked it a lot.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's actually a good starting point as well. Drew and Chad, what did you think of this big change to like a geeky Steven? It would get, that was one of our pointy ends that Rebecca and I discussed. I guess it would ruffle some feathers for some comic book fans. What did you make of it?
I mean, I personally loved it. Because we all knew months ago when they started teasing it that he was clearly not a rich dude living in New York. And I don't know. They made his character so endearing and relatable. I just don't know with every other, Tony Stark and Bruce Wayne out there right now, if he had been the traditional rich Stephen Grant, I don't know how many people would have really given a shit to stay around until the end. They would have just wanted the action right away. And yeah, I don't know. I can get into it later, but me and a couple of friends have a really fun theory that the show is going to eventually get to a point where he will become the rich Stephen Grant, but it's going to be this dweeby, nerdy version of Stephen learning how to be rich. And I think that would be wildly entertaining.
Yeah. Chad, how about you?
I could completely see how that could be the case, but it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I really enjoyed watching the performance, don't get me wrong, and it was a great performance, but it just didn't feel like Stephen, and that hurt.
Yeah. I guess it's something that you in general would have to slowly acclimatize towards. People have been saying as well that it's a good introduction in the sense that he's a lot more relatable than, say, a merc or a billionaire for the people that watch. I don't want to, again, just share my thoughts because it was on the previous episode. So I'm just trying to think of what was out there as well, what other people were thinking. But potentially that was the strength of it, that people could relate to more.
Noel said something on Facebook the other day in response to one of my comments that I really vibed with. We were talking about how it was a really wonderful introduction to that character and a way to make you feel for him. Because if you look back in the comics, with the exception of certain runs, like, there's not a lot of times you are given a reason to feel bad for Mark Spector or to feel bad for Stephen Grant. Like we do, because we read all of it and he's like our guy. But for new people, if they saw like the traditional Mark Spector, Stephen Grant, it's not necessarily likely they'd latch on to caring about him that much.
Yeah, that is true, because like when it comes to making characters, like I do cartoonist, like little comic strip stuff. So I did like a lot of research into how to make characters, and it says every character should have a little flaw. Something that's relatable. People can relate to them as a human being, other than just being this perfect human being, and not that the idea is a flaw, because it's not, but it's something that makes them human. But also beyond that, having the ability of being someone that's picked on, someone that has their coworkers or their superiors talking down to them, people can relate to that, and I think it'll give the opportunity to people to feel for him. Like he was saying, like basically, it makes it more relatable as something that people can want to see what happens to him, so they can like, I don't know.
Well,
Yeah, no,
No,
let me
that's
put it
right.
this way. I've been all over Tumblr and Reddit the last couple of days, and it's wild how many people who don't know Moon Knight at all are hooked on this show because of Steven. So it will be interesting to see how many of them are still interested once Mark becomes more prominent or something like that. So, but
Yeah.
again, I mean, I totally understand how the comic fans like want to see that traditional Steven, but I think as far as reeling in people who aren't familiar, I think that they did the right move.
And that's true, dude, because like I have friends and stuff that are not really familiar with Moon Knight other than from me talking about him all the time. And they watched the show and all of them loved it. They loved the show. So I
Nice.
was in fear of them not liking it because it wasn't like slicing faces off and all that other stuff, but people
Yeah.
actually enjoyed it. So
Yeah, I can imagine you, Dukes, prior to the TV show, talking to your friends about Moon Knight and probably getting a lot of the backs of your friends, but now they're actually paying attention,
oh
because the
yeah.
TV show's there. And what I see online as well, a lot of people, and Drew, I mean, I think your testament as well, a lot of friends coming towards you, asking
Ray,
about Moon
I
Knight.
went to the club last night, and no less than 5 times I had people that don't read comics come up to me and like, "Man, Moon Knight was pretty fucking cool." It's like, yes, I've been telling you guys for forever, but I'm glad that you're on board now.
And
Yeah,
it's funny
no,
because a lot of people were tagging me in things like like as if I didn't know about it. Like, hey, do you know the show's coming out? Or hey, this show's out, and I'm like, believe me, I'm on it.
yeah.
Believe me, I'm watching all of it.
Which is also as well is a first for me. And not putting anyone kind of on the spot, but how many times did everyone watch it? The first episode, more than once or
I think I'm on 4.
4? Frank?
I watched it 3 times visually, and I
Yep.
listened to it 3 times audio. Like at work, I had my earbuds in. I was just listening to the audio because I wanted to focus on the audio because one of my issues in the beginning was KHONSHU being real loud.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we didn't like it. We didn't like KHONSHU at first, but the second and third
Yeah.
time I watched it, I don't know, it was weird. Maybe it was purposefully like abrasive to
Yeah.
And I
kind
was
of
thinking
let you
maybe it's like
feel
kind of
like
like this
Steven
new thing,
was.
like boom, like
Yeah.
know,
I
it
think
was
that's
a little bit
awesome
high.
that you're doing the like you're watching the show like just audio what do you say it? You're just listening to the audio of the show. I think that's
Yeah,
awesome as well.
it helped. It
Chad?
helped because I was not seeing stuff, and I was just kind of listening, and
Yep.
everything kind of melted in perfectly. It was like even him being kind of loud. I kind of felt like it was because it was a new thing, like just like in his head. And
Yep.
eventually, as the show goes on, he gets lower and lower. So I think he starts getting comfortable with having that voice around. That might have
I mean,
been intentional.
yeah, true. Also, as well, I think Khonshu was pissed off at Stephen when we first see Khonshu, so a lot
Very
of
true.
shouting involved there. Chad as well. How many have you been able to watch it in between unpacking and such?
Yeah, I watched it the first night twice and then last
Oh,
night twice.
Yeah, awesome.
Nice.
This is a first for me. I don't know if you guys. I mean, I love my MCU, but I can't say I've watched an episode as many times as I've watched. So I've seen it 4 times as well.
When I was thinking about that, because like I've really looked forward to and enjoyed every other show, but
Mm.
and obviously I'm biased because this is Moon Knight, but something about how this show is made and how endearing Steven is and the music, like I I'm not watching it several times to pick up new Easter eggs or anything like that. I just find it that enjoyable.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
it's
me
very
too
enjoyable.
as well.
It's very
Yeah.
enjoyable. Me, I'm a lyricist, so like me, I love lyrics and deep things and hidden meanings. So I watched it just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Plus, I loved it. Plus, on top of that, the fact that I was looking for little things, like you're saying, we're not looking for Easter eggs. I was kind of looking for hidden messages and different things.
Yep.
And I actually have a little list of some things
Yeah,
that
let's
I
go.
found that
Let's
I
go
was
through
like,
'em.
wow, like
Yeah,
maybe this is what they meant. Maybe it's not, but I see it,
yeah.
maybe it is, maybe it's not.
Throw us one our way. Let's see
Oh,
if
let
any
me
of the
see.
others have picked it up as well.
Up there, let me see. Well, there was one. Let me find this one. Hold on. Okay, so there's okay. Well, this is probably not as big of a thing, but when he was in the crowd, when
Yep.
Arthur was speaking and everyone was bowing, when he bowed down, there was a guy. He looks like he was from like maybe he's like Arabic, maybe like Arabian, I mean, or something like of that culture was behind him, kind of looking at him, and then he was gone, and then he was back again. But when he was on a bus, that same guy kind of popped up again on the bus, like right behind him.
Oh,
I saw that.
interesting pick.
I
Either
didn't
that or
pick that
the
up until the third time, and if you look around him, a handful of people from that village are on that bus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's true.
wow.
And
I mean, that's
didn't
either
catch that first.
yeah. I mean, that's either brilliant or they're just being stingy on extras.
They didn't want to get more extras.
No, that's good. Good pickup.
And let me see. Okay, this is something that this might be in my mind, me just being crazy. But in the very beginning, the opening scene when Arthur was doing his little ritual, and he goes to walk off, and then like he's walking through some kind of building or whatnot, and you see like there's like some windows there, and there's a banister, and this is just me being crazy probably, but the banister was part of it was missing, right? On one of the banisters, it went halfway and it was gone, and it looked to me like it was photoshopped out, like maybe it really was there, but they photoshopped it out. I don't know, but I felt like that was foreshadowing that maybe someone's gonna fall from that area. I don't know. That's just me being super crazy, probably. But
I'll look, being someone who has watched the first 4 episodes, I'm just gonna say, yeah, that's interesting.
it's interesting.
That's a perfect response.
And another thing is in the opening scene, Arthur had those braces on it, or those bracelets on his arm, and I noticed that one was closed, all the way closed. Let me see, and the other one was open, and I was like, why? Like, is there a reason for that, or I don't know. That's like I look at the little things,
Yeah, nice. I'm loving how like the Moon Knight fans and probably just MCU fans are really pouring over the episode. I love it because they do put a lot of consideration into what is there, right? I mean, there's that thing I saw online of that QR code in the museum. I don't know if you guys saw that in the group. As Steven's talking to the little girl above the fire extinguisher, there's a QR code, and if you actually somehow zoom in and scan it, you'll get an issue of Werewolf by Night 32. So,
oh wow,
yeah. So that's
awesome.
I think like a trial for the Marvel Unlimited app too, or something.
Oh wow, as well. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like interactive, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and they've never done something like that before. So for them to, and I'm sure they're doing it because he's a very new character for a lot of people.
Yeah,
I don't know. I thought that was a very classy move on Marvel's part because it's just encouraging people to look into the comics.
It just makes it interactive. Like we've gone beyond just viewing. Yeah.
I don't know if it's just this show or if they've been doing it in movies. I'm pretty sure they do it in movies all the time, but there's so many small hidden things like that. Like 99% of the population will never know or see, but then in this one, it was, and like something else. This is a big one for me. When Steven or whoever got into the cupcake mobile and started driving off into the sunset. When he was doing that, it went to a scene where it was like there's some flowers in the foreground and he drives by, right?
Yes.
And so I looked at the flowers to see what kind of flowers they were, and one of them was a daisy, which stands for purity, innocence, cheering up parents who have lost a child, and new beginnings and rebirth. So I was thinking maybe that had something to do with him, coming into being who he is now, accepting that he has multiple alters going on. And the other one, I'm not 100% sure, but it looked like this lupin or lupine, which means imagination, happiness, positive outlook, but also it goes into willingness to overcome trying situations or recover from trauma.
That's such cool details. I would never thought of looking into the flowers.
Yeah. That's really cool.
So I'm not 100% sure if that's why they had them there, but it kind of those two flowers and what they mean, and also that lupine or whatever, it has to do with the wolf and moon. Coincides with that. So again, like I don't know if that's why they put it there, but it's just kind of funny that all the things that those two flowers represent kind of go hand in hand with what Moon Knight is
Yeah,
overall.
I mean, you could have easily just put in chucked in a a weed or a rose or something or tulip there, but the fact that it shows that there are some considerations, it just astounds me actually. And Frank, I just kept that up there for you. I'm not sure who the Facebook user is. It might be Noel, but you are killing it, Frank, the
Oh,
tank. That's
well, thank you.
why you are the tank.
I appreciate it.
Chad as well. Like any bits that you kind of discovered through your 4 viewings?
I kind of noticed like when what was it when Steven came home and before he noticed Gus's extra fin, he was watching a documentary on like Neanderthals
Mm-hmm.
and a white painted face was the Neanderthal that was on the screen. And I was wondering if that was like a callback to the Age of Khonshu stuff with,
That would be
the
cool.
first Moon Knight being a, old school Neanderthal that has a white club.
Yeah, that would be awesome if that little nod to the to the comic books there. No, absolutely.
Great catch,
No,
great catch. Yeah.
yeah.
Or
I mean,
what about this too though? I mean,
Yeah.
maybe Bushman, how he has that the markings. Well, it's more red, but
Well, it's white outlined in red.
yeah.
So,
might be that too.
Noel just commented in the Facebook chat, which something we talked about the other day on Discord, about if that area with the flowers was Latveria. And I actually, Comics Explained, Rob did a video the other day, and he put up panels from Dr. Doom's castle and the castle that Mark is in front of, and then the picture of Dr. Doom's village and the village he was in. And he pointed out that they never say the name of where they are. So that might have been a really subtle like viewing of Latveria before he ever comes into the MCU, which would be very cool.
It could very well be. I mean, I think Rebecca had this discussion with yourself, Drew, on our Discord channel. There are castles there are castles anywhere else.
Of course, yeah.
Latveria, but it could very much be. I mean, why not? That would be really cool. It seems quite odd to have a setting where there is a castle, and comic book fans always associate that with Doom and it being like Germanic or European. So obviously a fictitious country it is. But yeah, no, I think it's absolutely a potential nod to it. And Justin, don't we all want to live in a castle? I want to just walk around in a
how long it would take to clean?
Yeah, that would
Chad, the practical sense coming in. But yeah, absolutely. I think Latveria is definitely on the cards. Now, what we're going to also do as well, Loonies, want to just sprinkle throughout our discussion with Drew, Frank, and Chad, just your thoughts as well. So I'm just going to drop into here. I've got Facebook open. This is from Marley Schaefer, one of the first comments that came back after the premiere of the show. And Marley says, I was surprised. This is about Arthur Harrow. I was surprised so much Arthur Harrow was in it. I like the MCU, but it does have a serious problem with having villains be an afterthought. It was a fun ride with good pacing. Definitely pulled at my heartstrings a bit when you see Steven is really being affected by it. I also like the new Steven as well. Last scene got me pumped, but I wish we had seen more. I think that was kind of intentional, though. Anyway,
yeah.
Next week can't come soon enough now that the monsters are out. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Marley. I just want to dwell a bit on Arthur Harrow, what you guys thought of the villain. Did you see him as an afterthought, or does he seem like a decent enough villain for you?
I think he's going to be really, really interesting. And I don't know if they've done this with any other properties, whether show or movie, but the intro having no dialogue and just being 5 minutes alone with the villain, I thought was genius.
Yeah, I was
on top of it being wildly cringe-worthy. Like that was like the most non-bloodshed style of violence that I think MCU has ever been. Like it hurt to watch.
You don't walk around with glass in your shoes? Sorry. No. Sorry, Frank.
No, you're good. I was just gonna say same with me. Like first thing that came to my head was, oh, Ethan Hawke is gonna get the first camera time. I was like, that's not what I was expecting. I was not expecting that at all. you know, and so that was pretty, like you said, it was pretty awesome, and it made you just be quiet and sit there and look, you know.
Yeah.
It's visually captivating, definitely.
It certainly seemed that from the previews that his big announcement into the episode would be when he walks in, you know, into that town and the people are following him. That seemed to me like the big moment that you reveal your villain. So it was very surprising to have him straight off the bat. And for people that haven't watched the trailer or don't know anything about it, it would have been a strange, a very strange introduction, I think. I think I mentioned it in the reaction episode. Eve actually thought that was Mark Spector at the beginning. She was going, "Oh, he's a tough guy now, is he?" Walking in, going, "Hang on, that's the bad guy." So she's not. But yeah, I don't know, Chad. What did you make of Arthur Harrow? A very obscure deep dive villain.
Yeah, that was a deep cut. Like, I honestly hadn't read anything about Arthur for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm really not sure if he's like a hardcore villain at this point because, you know, as well as he's killing people, that's pretty villainous. He's also doing it like he's judging people preemptively, and that's already gray water.
Mm.
But it's judging their souls, so it's like not exactly sure if it's going to be like a positive or negative afterthought.
Yeah.
But also with his first screen time, I thought it was a little bit amusing that, you know, he is doing this, you know, like the whole Jewish wedding Mazel Tov thing. That's kind of like a celebration. So I'm not sure if this is like getting into the show is cause for celebration in that universe. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's heralding in a positive era or something, because all he does seemingly is try to fix things from his viewpoint.
Yeah, which is true. I mean, and I guess the best villains are those that you can kind of see their side of it as well. And he's trying to fix stuff. There is that big kind of Minority Report, you know,
Yeah.
scenario of him, and of shall I dare I say Civil War II, where you start arresting and killing criminals before they actually have even done anything. But yeah, absolutely. A good question here from Henry Boy 11. Has said, with Arthur being a villain at first, will it drag out to the end, or will there be more villains? What do you guys think? Do you think he'll be the main guy, or do you think this will be an intro into potentially, you know, Bushman or?
I think
I think
Bushman's
it's
going to be in there because I read
Yeah.
somewhere that someone was picked to play Bushman. Like there was an actual actor that was to play him. So I'm guessing he's going to show up. I think he'll show up the very last episode, like kind of like a cliffhanger to maybe there's more, you know. But
Yeah.
And they already have Midnight Man confirmed, so
Yes.
I think Harrow will be the overarching
peace.
like present villain, and they'll pop in other guys throughout the end as part of the storytelling of Mark's past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. It's I mean, yeah, I think Harrow is a good villain. I mean, we've only seen him in the first episode. You know, I guess we'll know more about him as the episodes go along. But yeah, no, thank you very much, Marley, for that.
Some things that, real quick, if I may, some
Yeah.
things that kind of like sat with me with his crowd appearance or whatnot was he's saying that, you know, you're a brave soul for coming for judgment before she awoke. Like so she must be sleeping or stagnant or, you know, not, you know, awake for whatever reason. And then he said something about, I will judge you with a fraction of her power. So it started making me think, what is giving her power? Is it him taking these souls or whatever, or having them, you know, be judged? Is that making her stronger, or, you know, what's going to make her strong enough to awake?
And
that's a good
yeah,
point.
and
Yeah.
after his talk with Mark in the museum towards the end, it seems like they're really leaning towards KHONSHU being one of the indolent gods that fucked her up. So I can't wait to find out like why she isn't active and awake and what KHONSHU had to do with that.
And
Well,
it's funny you
also
said that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was about to say, sorry, Frank. There's that interaction between Harrow and Stephen in the museum, and Harrow does say that Amit was struck down by the indolent gods, but also by her very own avatar. So it'd be interesting to know who
But you know, it's crazy.
if we do get to see that.
I watched I read another article where it was talking about how they believe that Mark or Moon Knight might have been her avatar at one point. I don't know if it's if that's true or not. But at the same time, I was thinking if her avatar let her down or betrayed her, what if since Arthur is her current avatar, I'm guessing that maybe towards the end, Mark will get him to betray her, and like history will repeat itself. I was kind of thinking about that too.
One thing I wanted to point out while we're still on Arthur that I found really interesting, especially on the third and fourth watches, is when they're doing that museum chat. He seems to sense that Mark or Steven, I don't know if he senses that he has a connection to a god, but when he gets up next to him and he's talking about the voice in his head and how it's never pleased, it's incessant, and it's constant. It's like he serves Amit so willingly, but it almost seems like he can't stand doing it. And I think that's really interesting because he's so on board in doing this work. But when he's talking to Mark, it's almost like he's trying to tell him, God, I wish I could get out of this.
Yeah,
and maybe also he empathizes with him and realizes they're both in the same boat and like they're kind of like equals, you know.
So when they start getting deeper into the God stuff, I think that's going to get wildly interesting for both of those characters.
Yeah, no, for sure as well. And I just want to add as well, Amit. We know, the world's first boogeyman, that sort of stuff. But as for your question, Frank, about what is feeding this deity, the souls for sure. But the whole thing, Amit, isn't that right? It means truth as well. So there's got to be something in there that maybe, I don't know, maybe feeding Amit and making sure that they're getting stronger. I don't know. Yeah, we'll have to see. I'm hoping that we just see. I want to see the gods, I want to see them. Oh, we've seen KHONSHU, but I'd love to see the gods. Just
I'm really excited about that because I know after they did the premiere, I got out through interviews with people on the red carpet. They have a woman who's cast as Taweret, I think.
Yeah.
So they have multiple people cast as gods. I think we're going to actually get to see a lot of the Ennead by the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. Sorry.
There's kind of a point with that is the Ennead. It's supposed to be the 9 gods. You think that KHONSHU and Bast were the missing 2?
I think, I was hard. I didn't see the poster. I reckon, I don't know. I reckon KHONSHU would probably be one of them. I don't know, but Bast definitely could have been. Or is it maybe?
I actually did some diving into Egyptian lore the other day, and if I'm not mistaken, what was really interesting is I watched, I think it was like Screen Crush or somebody break down that KHONSHU and Bast are both children of Ra.
Yep.
So that kind of ties him into Black Panther as far as connections to the Ennead. I don't know where Amit fits in with that, but it was just interesting to find out that KHONSHU in lore is related to Bast.
One thing I know is that Amit was basically said that she's not like an equal to them, or was not, like an actual god. She was kind of just there and more feared than anything, as being a devourer. And another thing is, she does post-death rituals supposedly. And I was thinking about Mark, when he was his origin story, he died and came back to life. So I mean, maybe that's a way to tie in his origin story, the fact that he has died, so he's even more so judgeable by her or whatever. I don't know.
As someone who's really into this sort of like mythology and stuff, it's so cool knowing that Muhammad Diab being Egyptian and going out of his way to make sure this is as accurate as possible. Like all the stuff that's going to come through the show is going to be so interesting and accurate. We don't have to worry about that being, massacred by American takes on it.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll just keep on thinking, just with a bit of a smile on my face, all those museum curators and geeks out there, you're welcome from Muna. I think everyone, like now, Drew is diving into Egyptology. I'm sure all the other loonies, I myself as well, have a fascination now with Egyptian lore. So there'll be a lot more visits to museums, I think, fellas, which is good news for people for the arts, for culture. So
Absolutely.
Respect the shop workers.
Yeah.
exactly. Respect your shop workers. Now, does anyone want to dive into pick a comment from one of the Loonies? If you've got the page open.
If I could, it's
Yep.
not a comment from that post, but I just wanted to touch on something Lena said in the group the other day. If
Yeah,
that's
sure.
okay. I'll make it quick. I'm not going to read their entire post, but I thought it was really important, and we are really blessed to have somebody in our group that is open about DID. And I know a lot of us have been interested in what their take on this was. So if they're listening, thank you for sharing this. But
yes,
the gist of it is they said on here that they understand how the new Steven is not everyone's cup of tea, understandable, but they wanted to point out why they thought this worked. And they basically said, showing Steven before we got Mark, this didn't click to me that this was like a bold move on Marvel's part until the second or third watch, is that in most interpretations of DID, even ones based on true events, the name of the systems they're mostly focused on the system's legal name alter. And by having Steven be the entire focus of the first episode and us learning to empathize with him, when we start to learn that he's not the quote unquote real identity there, we've already established a full connection to this guy. So he's not just a voice inside Mark's head that we pay attention to. He's a guy that we care about just as much, if not more than Mark. And I think that was wildly important to show that these are real people to the people that are in this situation. They're not, like they said in this post, they've had therapists who straight up told them that they were a delusion. And Marvel made the point to show this is a real person just as much as Mark is. And I just wanted to point that out because I thought it was wonderfully put. And it really made me respect the way they're handling DID for the show.
That post definitely made me, it was a very good post, and it made open my eyes a lot to the whole situation. Because that's right. Like if they came out with Mark and then all of a sudden they came out with these other ones, you'd be like, it's just a voice in his head, it's just a voice in his head. And beyond that, when people say, you're fake, it's fake, or this and that, people don't accept what they don't understand themselves. So like if someone say I say I'm going to, run a triathlon, and someone might be like, you can't do that. They're not telling me that I can't do that. They're telling me that they can't do it. And they have their own limitations of what they think that they can do, and so they portray that on other people. So because someone else doesn't have that those alters and for them, they believe that it doesn't exist. And
because I can't.
And I can't imagine if we don't know how that feels, and we're watching Steven, who seems like he's lived a full life and he has a full history. And like, can you imagine being in that situation and having somebody tell you to your face, like that you're not telling the truth, or that you're a lie, or that you're not real?
You don't exist.
They really made us understand that. And like, honestly, Lena, if you're listening, thank you so much for all the insight you give us into this, because it really does mean a lot to learn more about this from somebody who's living it, and to know that the way it's being represented in this show is accurate, because I think that's really important.
Oh, no, for sure. I mean, there is even early on in the comics as well, there is that implied hierarchy of like Mark. I mean, the 90s series is titled Mark Spector Moon Knight. It focuses on him. But there is that implied hierarchy that, there's him and he's got his other identities who don't seem to be, as important because he uses them in order to fight crime. But yeah, as Lena puts it, I think it's great how we're actually introduced to Steven, and people who don't know the comic don't really know that yet as well. So can you imagine?
I'm going to start having people over every week to watch the show, because so many of my friends have gotten invested in it, and they like talking to me about it. So I'm really excited to see how non-comic readers react when he turns out not to be the main character.
Yeah, for sure. Chad, do you have something, or did you want to grab one of the comments?
Yeah, one sec. Let's see. I'm just going to go down the list with Brandon Chambers next. Really good, though. I'm interested to see what newbies to the character think. Enough of the trailers come from the first episode that was constantly able to predict the next 5 to 10 minutes of the episode. There was a little bit of that. I love the Frenchie Easter egg. Hope we get more on that.
Mm-hmm.
Really, my only gripe is that we didn't get any real action. I wanted to see Moon Knight in action. Naturally, I get that it doesn't work with a mystery psychological horror vibe, but I really want to see Mark and Moon Knight go to town. Felt kind of sad when the final shot was the one we already seen 100 times.
Yeah. How did you guys? Sorry, Chad.
Oh no, I was going to say I agree, sort of, but also like, you know, WandaVision, the first episode was entirely black and white and like a 1950s sitcom with no magic being done almost at all. So that's
first
it's
episode as
storytelling. If we just gotten slammed with a half hour of action in the first episode, none of that care for the character would have been built up the same way.
Yeah,
especially with his diagnosis, or I don't know, he wasn't really I don't know if he was diagnosis really in the show version, but definitely that's something that's most important is getting him you to feel for him and even care to even know what's going on after that. So I do agree with that. As far as the way, at first I was kind of like I said, let down, but then I realized once I listened to it the second time, I was like, okay, they did it right, I believe.
Yeah. Look, I think it's just my personal taste as well. We have seen that shot 100 times in the trailer. It still kind of got me pumped, and I think Rebecca made a good point about if we had 2 episodes released on that week, people would be going straight to episode 2, right? You know, because of that ending in episode 1. But I think the fact that we have to wait now, and whether or not you like binge watching or you like to take your time with it, it has left us, on a really nice cliffhanger. We've got Moon Knight. It's established. It's only episode 1. I mean, can you believe how much was packed into episode 1 as well?
Right. And we got to remember this is TV. They did what TV is supposed to do, which is to make millions of people talk about it for 7 days until the next one. And I haven't seen any slack in people talking about it.
Oh, because for sure.
There's so many like hidden things in this episode, and probably all the episodes. If it just had it all available and you just watched it through, you probably miss like so much very important stuff. Like I've never ever probably in my life have watched a series more than one time, as far as that one episode multiple times before the next one comes out. I've never done it before ever, and so like just because I've seen that there's certain things like that's kind of strange. Why is that happening? And like I said, me being a lyricist, when I write lyrics, I try to write lyrics that have the ability of having multiple meanings, and so I look at multiple from multiple different angles, and then I have to look at it because I have nothing else to look at until next week. So I have to break this down, and then we talk about it, and then it gets out there, and someone else reads about it or sees it, and then so now people understand, whereas before they probably wouldn't understand all what they put into this episode.
Yeah. I mean, you've only got 37, 38 minutes to work off. We've got to wait a whole week. I mean, we're nearly there, guys. So Wednesday, by the time, I mean, this is live streaming. By the time this drops on the podcast, we've got about a day to wait for the next episode. But yeah, I mean, we can spend the time for it. I don't think even for Daredevil, I don't think I was this, and I'm a huge Daredevil fan. I don't think this. I've been pouring through this episode as much as Moon Knight's, but I guess there's a reason for that as well.
Also, I love the Frenchie Easter egg, and I also love that Lena called him a million times, and Frenchie tried once and said, "Fuck it."
Frenchie's his own dude, he doesn't give a shit. Like,
he's like, I know what he's doing. I'm done.
Something that bothered me about Layla though, was the fact that she's been supposedly trying to contact Mark for months and months and months.
Yeah.
She gets him on the phone, and just because he asked, "Why did you call me Mark?" she hangs up.
Yeah, that was a bit funny.
I'm like, was it important to get a hold of him or not? Because it wasn't important.
I put massive, well called out. I just put that down to the theatrics of TV, though, but yeah.
At the same time, maybe I was looking at his hand. I didn't see it happen. I was like, maybe Mark hung up on it. You know what I mean? Maybe Mark.
That's actually.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, in the old days, you could see you could just slam the receiver down, but if you don't know these days, a subtle touch of a button.
So about the phone though, I noticed that it was a Razor. That's an old phone. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering what kind of time frame this thing happens. Now, on the other hand, they reissued the Razor as a nostalgia thing, so it's extremely ambiguous.
Yeah,
Good point.
I just put it down as a burner phone, but I mean that was just me fobbing it
Yeah,
off.
it could be
but
a burner phone, but also it's a good point you said about as far as what timeline, because I wrote that down. It's one of my things to talk about is the fact that he brings up Avatar and he brings up both Avatars, anime and the movie. So it has to be at least since those movies came out.
Yeah, good
It has
point.
to be more, There's not in the 80s. This show is not taking place in the 80s, of course.
He's not referencing Ghostbusters or
So
no, that's a good point.
I'm thinking it's now times. It's got to be taking place now.
Yeah, it's interesting in Disney Plus, the streaming service. If you look at the timeline order, the with Marvel, because I was doing that. I know it's very geeky. I was doing it to reorder my Blu-rays, but Moon Knight is at the end. So I don't know whether that's just because it's the latest release or because it's meant to be set literally after Hawkeye. I don't know, but
Yeah, that's what I read too.
Yeah, it could well be. So we don't know. No, but thank you so much, Brandon, for that as well, and as well the action. We all want to see Moon Knight. Don't worry, you'll get to see plenty of Moon Knight. I don't think that's spoiling anything. So that should be very fun.
I found a real interesting comment in this Facebook thread.
Oh, okay. Yep. Yeah, sure.
Sorry to jump the gun, but somebody said, I'm wondering if the staircase down in the end credits where you see the winding staircase with the sand at the bottom. So this it's Henry Campbell, and he said, I wonder if that's a reference to issue 5 from the Warren Ellis run, which is the raid in the apartment building, which would be cool. But the way I interpreted it is it reminded me of in the Lemire run when they're all trying to make a break for it, and they go downstairs through the asylum into the sand-covered subway basement.
That is also true. Yeah, it could be either.
Could be either or. Yeah, absolutely.
Either way, there's a lot of cool imagery in the end credits. I've watched through those. I
love the end credits. I just love. Oh, and whilst we have both of you here as well, your thoughts on the music, guys? What do you think?
I was just going to bring that up.
Yeah. So good. The score itself is fantastic, but the song selections they were perfect. The intro song, the Engelbert Humperdinck becoming everybody's new favorite guy. Yeah, it was great. I can't wait to see what sort of music they use for the rest of the show, because it's the perfect balance of spooky and fun, and they're so good at finding sections of lyrics that are the way the intro, he ends something about following the moon and then it echoes out over Mark waking up. I live for music play like that in shows.
Awesome.
Yeah, one of the comments says from Brian Rosario says, where has this composer been my whole life? Love the soundtrack. And me personally, the very first watch of it, I was kind of like, why does it have this song? Why does it have that song? But when I went back and just listened to the audio, everything was perfect. The lyrics and the songs, like you said, basically went perfectly with what's going on in the show. It was there's no way they could have made it any better. It was perfect. It was beautiful.
It was initially. I mean, I love the soundtrack as well. Initially, it was very prominent for me because it seemed almost like song after song after song. You had Engelbert Humperdinck, you had Bob Dylan. That was at the very beginning, and then shortly after you had Wham as well. So it was this is a lot. They're packing a lot of contemporary music in, but I thought the score as well was very epic. They're talking about the Indiana Jones style. It certainly has that kind of cinematic, strings and orchestral kind of music. But I loved it, and I can ping the because every hero has a theme, right? So I definitely know Moon Knight's theme now, which is very exciting. I've always wanted to know ever since starting the podcast what would the theme to Moon Knight sound like, and I thought it was going to be Deleta, but
well,
that would have been a nice surprise.
when it first came on, right after Arthur's ritual whatnot, my wife was like, I can't wait to see what kind of epic theme song he has for the beginning, and then that song came on and I was like, this is not really a theme song, Mandalorian has you hear, I love that. You know what it is, and then so I was like, why? But then someone in the group had said that most of the time with Marvel, what they'll do is the first episode will be whatever, but then they'll come out on the second or so and have an actual theme song for them or whatever, what it is. I don't think that song's going to play every time.
No.
Yeah.
One cool thing I noticed that speaking of Mandalorian, you know how like every time Mando shows up, especially when he showed up in Boba Fett, you'd hear his little like Jurassic Park sound and whistle sound, and that's how you knew Mandalorian was there. So when Khonshu pops up behind him in the elevator, they have a very similar like little. It honestly sounds like when the Velociraptors show up in Jurassic Park.
Oh, really?
I'm hoping every time Khonshu shows up, he gets a weird little sound spike like that.
Great catch. Yeah, I have to go back and watch it a fifth time.
Yeah. I love the with Khonshu, you're talking about Khonshu in that elevator scene. I think there was that choral kind of music. You know, you can hear the chorus just kind of
and like the
rising
weird
up.
children laughing. It was like highly disturbing for some reason.
We got a request here from Noel. He's dropped his thoughts. Khonshu talk. So we spoke about the volume. I can't remember if we spoke about that before we started recording.
Yeah, it got mentioned on, and I honestly, like I said, we watched it on a big TV with a really loud sound bar the first time, and it was really like almost too much to the point where it kind of took us out of it. But on follow-up watches, I didn't notice it as much, and I was kind of thinking they mixed it like that on purpose because they want you to be as jarred by it as Steven is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think of his appearance? And you know, this is his first time we see him. We get the full Monty. We get the bird skull.
He's so cool and frightening, and I can't wait to see him being a sassy dickhead, but also horrifying looking.
Chad, how about you?
I kind of was off put by the voice. Like, I think it's a great voice actor. Don't get me wrong, and I like the job that they did on it. I just expected, ancient bloodthirsty deity to sound less like a camp counselor.
Yeah.
I kind of expected like a discordant, aberrant voice. It's just like, oh, Jesus, no, put me back in sleep.
Yeah.
Like, I'm wondering if when like we see him on screen while he's speaking, it'll feel different. I think hearing that voice, who he knows from a old British man, without the body being there, I feel like that's what causes a bit of a disconnect. I'm wondering if having him on screen while he's speaking will change that. So I guess see in future episodes. I ultimately don't hate it, but I kind of agree. When you're not seeing Khonshu's body, it just doesn't necessarily ring as being an old Egyptian bird.
Yeah. I mean, it's also very, very hard as well in the fact that for long time, say, comic book readers, you've seen Khonshu, you've read him, but you've not really heard him. So there's an abstract concept in your head about how he should sound, although you may not be able to describe it. But then when you finally see or hear him, it's something totally different. So there's always going to be that. Yeah.
It's like when you read a book, like you don't know what the characters look like other than what they describe.
Yeah.
So you come up with something that's totally different, and then when the movie comes out, like that's not what I was thinking it would be, Yeah. But that's what the author was going for. Like for me, the voice for Khonshu was more like a raspy, like, Mark, you're messing up. Like, get over here and do this now. Like that was what I was looking for. And then I heard this.
That's exactly the voice I had in my head.
You have voices in your head? Oh. But then I heard the voice and I'm like, that's not Khonshu. Someone else is talking to him. Who's that? And then
I am excited to see how he develops too, because we've seen in the trailers, there's that shot. Granted, I have no idea what's going on in it, but there's that shot where him and Mr. Knight are standing on the hill and he's showing him. I don't know, that I would imagine that's him teaching Mark or Steven or whoever about something. And like, obviously Khonshu is rude and he's pushy, but I'm excited to see what he's like when they're just talking or discussing something. Like, because it would be cool to see him go from being kind of a pushy asshole to like also being a god that cherishes his son.
Yeah. Well, it seems that in this instance anyway, he doesn't have much respect for Steven. He's the worm, the idiots in control, parasite, that sort of. It seems that he's got more respect for Mark, and I'm assuming because Mark carries out his will. Whereas Steven, he doesn't. I mean, not that he's ever had a chance to until episode 1, but I think Khonshu just views Steven as like, he's a bit of a waste.
And good point about the fact that Mark carries out his will. So yes, he favors him, but as we know in the comic books, there's many times he's turned his back on him because he didn't do what he wanted to do. So is it really like he's doing his bidding, or is he being his slave basically? And if you're not going to be a good slave, then I'm going to go on to somebody else.
And it seems very clearly that they're trying to keep Steven in the dark about everything that's going on. I mean, they had to replace his goldfish. He's told him several times, stop looking. So I think Steven becoming aware, it's very much aggravating KHONSHU, but I'm really excited to see how long this has been going on for, because it's been long enough that it's been months at least, because Layla's been trying for months. He's had time to get a job. All this stuff, like, I'm really excited to see what lengths KHONSHU and Mark have been going to keep Steven in the dark about all this.
And I'm wondering why. Like either Mark is doing this because he cares about Steven not freaking out, or is it because he's afraid of what Steven might do if he knows? Because I was wondering, like, why is he telling him stop searching? Like, wouldn't you want him to know so he'd be willing to let the body do what it has to do? Like I was wondering why he's trying to keep it a secret from Steven.
Yeah. I'm just thinking that this is just me as well, but I'm just thinking that Steven is a massive liability, like a huge risk. Like he as endearing as he is, and I like him as well. But as far as serving the will and being an avatar of vengeance, I think Steven's definitely the risk for them all. So that's probably why they're kind of trying to wrap him up in cotton wool and make sure that he doesn't have to worry about all this. But yeah, you could be right. I mean, as well, maybe Steven.
If I could go on a super quick rabbit hole tangent off of that too, I was having a discussion with a buddy of mine, and we were taking notes from a Facebook discussion where we kind of have this theory that it might be related to Amit, and that Steven or Mark's, the personalities are not in sync with each other, and that's maybe what Mark and KHONSHU are working towards, and that he's been kept in a spot where they are all separate. That way he's not a threat to what Amit's trying to do. And part of what fed into that is when he's talking to his mom, who obviously is not a real mom, he's leaving voicemail messages, and he's saying, like, later, Gators. And that could either be a super cute line for Jolly Steven, or like we read it, we were going down a rabbit hole about it, but we read it as like, what if he's stuck in this Amit's a gator-headed god, like what if he is stuck in this situation where his personalities can't coincide with each other, which makes him less of a threat, and we're going to get to see them all kind of like the Lemire style come together and figure their shit out to work as one, making Moon Knight as an entity unstoppable. Obviously I have no idea if there's anything to that, but it was just kind of a fun rabbit hole to go down.
Oh no, absolutely as well, and that got me thinking as well. Later Gators, the Gator reference. There could be the question I want to ask then, and I'll throw it to you, Chad. First, the mum on the other side of the phone. What are our thoughts on who that is? Is it the mum, or what do you?
I think it's Amit. One of these messages in the post, it says, I think it's Elia Payne. Said one of their questions was, who is Steven calling instead of his mom? And so that's going to read that next. But yeah, that's perfect. Like I think it's a voicemail, because it's like, sorry I missed you. I don't think it's a real person.
Yeah. Or it doesn't sound like there's someone on the other line as well. It sounds like he's just kind of dictating something. So Chad, so you reckon it's Amit?
Yeah. I think that this is all. I honestly think that Mark Steven is dead currently.
Yeah, maybe it was you who was pointing this out to me, and that's where I kind of went off, because I really liked your idea here.
Well, there's that also. Sorry, Chad. Sorry, go on.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, but just further to what you're saying, that the little girl, remember, he's talking about the Field of Reeds, and she goes, "Then how come you got rejected from the Field of Reeds?" And he goes, "I'm not dead." He goes, "Am I?" And then he gets distracted. That was at the first 5 minutes of the show. Thrown a throwaway comment, but yeah, it could definitely feed into what you're saying, Chad.
Yeah, that was a creepy little girl. Like, why did she say that?
And why does why does she know? And that
why
also
does she know? Yeah,
that was another thing that kind of led into this being a controlled situation that's keeping him from being whole. is maybe. I mean, I don't know that
Could be like the Truman
that's
Show.
a lot, but yeah, if this is
Yeah.
all a construct to keep him from being a threat, that'd be kind of interesting.
Or what if that girl didn't exist? It was all in his head. He was
Also, that.
Absolutely. I mean, we don't know. It's
I mean, we are watching Moon Knight here, so
yeah.
That comment goes on to say, since he, Steven, doesn't know about Mark's past, I sincerely doubt he knows about his real family, as far as the mom situation.
Yeah. So is the mum a plant? Like, has Mark planted this fake mum or this fake life? But, you know, it sounds like he's really developed. You know, he's got colleagues. He's got a life. So something's happened. But yeah, as far as his mum, who knows? We know that the parents will be there because, I mean, spoilers, not spoilers, on the red carpet.
You can check it on IMDb.
Yeah, that as well. So they've been cast, so we know. But whether that is the mum that Steven's talking to, we just don't know. So
I think that Steven doesn't really have. He's kind of antisocial. He doesn't really know how to deal with people. You know.
Yeah.
Overall, with anyone. I mean, I haven't seen him connect with anyone. Crawley. I mean, he talked to him, but he's not talking back. So there's no threat of being challenged at all. You know.
Yes.
So speaking of Crawley, how awesome that we got him first episode. And I love all these theories going around that like Crawley is aware of Mark and he knows what's going on and he is his informant when he's not being Steven.
That's so cool. Yeah.
And that makes it even funnier that when Steven comes up to him and just blabs to him while he's a statue, he just has to sit there and be like, I know what's going on, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Keeping eyes on Steven for Mark.
Yeah.
And what's crazy also is like maybe he's kind of like looking after him, kind of protecting him, like making sure he's good when he's in that state. You know, he's just kind of like
just a little monitoring him. I just want to go back a little bit.
He clearly knows him. He brings him food, and he knew what type of food he wanted. So like he's been doing this for a while.
Yeah, for sure. He's got. I mean, whether or not he's just a statue, but I mean, like just sitting there while Steven talks.
One thing about that scene. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I just want to go back to. I just want to address because good mate CMK7 has dropped a few thoughts. So just about the postcards. So it looks like Steven is even receiving postcards from Mum as well. Again, I think maybe that could be something that's arranged. Like, not necessarily.
I found out through multiple watches that when he's walking into work, he passes a rack of postcards, and they're the same ones that he was hanging up.
Oh,
so it starts making you wonder: is Mark sending him these to keep him in the dark, or is Amit sending him these to keep him in the dark?
That's what I was thinking too. Like I saw that same thing somewhere, and it made sense. I looked at it a second time, like, yeah, that's probably Mark doing that.
Either way, poor Steven.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Sorry, Frank, I cut you off there, but you were. Sorry.
I forgot what we're talking about. What I was going to say.
Yeah, we'll talk back about Crawley and him being a statue.
During that scene, so during that scene, you're watching it, everything's good. So during that whole scene, Mark is sitting on his, well, if you're looking at the situation, it would be your left, right? Mm-hmm. He's sitting on his left, your left, watching, talking to him or whatever. And then when it goes to the end and he goes to walk off, there's the puddle, right? Yeah. And he leaves. Now, I watched another video that broke down and said that basically what was above it was the puddle and what was below it was the actual thing. So I turned my phone upside down and watched it. And in that instance, Mark or Steven is actually on if you're looking, his right side. So basically the whole scene that you watched, which you thought the camera was on them, and that was what it was. Yeah. The real of it was actually the exact opposite. So were we looking to the puddle the whole time, or which one's the real reality? It was
nice.
It's kind of deep.
The mirror dimension.
The mirror dimension. He also says, as Chris says, "See you on the flip."
Yes.
which is
telling you to pretty much flip your phone or flip your TV right then.
Yeah. Good catch, everyone. Freaking hell. I just want to bounce because I just want to pay credit to our Instagram as well. I'll just take one from Adam Prine or Al Prine. A long-time Looney. Fantastic opener. Even if I wasn't an MK fan, I think this would be the most intriguing of Marvel shows so far. KHONSHU looked incredible and actually kind of dig the Mufasa voice, even though it is admittedly jarring at first. I guess we all agree. Seeing Duchamp on the phone log and possibly Crawley as a gold man on the bench had me pumped. Glad to hear that you're excited, Adam. But yeah, Crawley and Duchamp, the two big, I guess, supporting cast. We just need Jenna and Ricky and Ray now, and I think we'll be complete. But yeah, Duchamp. I want to say, do you think
I
we'll
just
get?
think it's so cool that we were all so worried they wouldn't be in the show for
Mhm.
good reason. We had no reason to think they would be, and then we just got both of them referenced in the first episode.
In the
I
first
loved that.
episode.
I think it's
Yeah.
And like to
pretty
see the writer go on Twitter and be like, "Looks like I lied. We do got a Crawley."
Yeah.
I think it's kind of like for us real fans or whatever to be like, hey, don't worry, like kind of like to make us feel calm and that's
Yeah.
it's gonna be all right in the end. They're gonna be there.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
exactly.
I don't know if I could real quick, like me and my buddy have this whole idea when we were talking about how people are all upset this isn't the traditional Moon Knight setup that we're used to. I feel like a lot of stuff has happened that's gotten to where they are at this point. And Mark and KHONSHU are clearly running around taking care of some sort of business. But
Yep.
like we went down this idea where like by the end of the show, Mark, Steven, maybe Jake by that point, they'll all know about each other. They'll be working together. And who's to say that after this season resolves this issue, we don't end up back in New York with the traditional setup of Steven being in control of everyday stuff, Mark taking care of business. Because how funny would it be to see Steven go from being a dweeby museum guy to trying to act like a rich playboy in a city? Like
Yeah,
we could
totally.
take this weird setup to explain his origin and
Mhm.
end up with the traditional Moon Knight by the end of it.
It's
Yeah,
kind of
well,
like Captain
yeah.
America, how he was like this little, he's too frail to get into the army or whatever, and then he
Yeah.
turned into like this beast, kind of
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the same type of transformation. One thing I want to say real quick about in the museum, when Arthur had him in his grasp, I guess you say, and then he gets saved by a tour coming through, and
Yes.
you hear a female voice speaking. I'm wondering if that was the lady that he tried to go on a date with. That
The tour
actually
guide,
walked
yeah.
through.
Yeah.
It could have been her saving him without even knowing
It could have
anything.
been, yeah. Actually, that's a good because she's a tour guide. Dylan was her name that Rebecca pointed out. Thank you, Rebecca. That the failed date. I mean, we could talk about that. But before I forget, I just wanted and Drew, you prompted me here. We're here, episode 1. So I just want to put it down on record now. We'll go through 3 of you. Chad, what do you reckon by episode 6? I mean, where will Moon Knight be? Drew alluded to something, but what do you reckon will happen by the end of 6? What's the status quo for Moon Knight?
That's tough to say because
Yeah.
we're supposed to be getting Midnight Man, and he's
Mhm,
known heist type, but we're also supposed to be getting Bushman. So it's like that could be international stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as like physically where, who knows? As far as character progression, I know we're supposed to get Mr. Knight, who from this like looks of it is supposed to be like a amalgamation of Steven, like his own version of Moon Knight. That's just really hard to say. It's to place him somewhere, anywhere.
I just want to put something down so like by the end of it we can come back and go, look, this is what you thought, this is what you thought. It'd be interesting to see where it does land. But okay, so you're thinking potentially globetrotting still.
Yeah.
And Drew, what you were mentioning, were they your thoughts as well of him ending up in New York? Or
Yeah, it's just it seems like this is something that Mark and KHONSHU have been working on for a minute, because Harrow refers to him as mercenary. They clearly have been dealing with him before he was in that village. So like, it seems like this isn't like everybody was so pissed that Steven was like in Britain and not in New York and all this stuff. And like, I don't necessarily think that that's where he resides normally. I just got this vibe that he's there as part of a mission and Mark and KHONSHU are keeping him in the dark about it. And when this all resolves, and as you know, since they've shown the two, this is a lot of wishful thinking too, but since we've gotten references to these cast characters we were hoping for, we're going to see stuff like Midnight Man. I have a feeling that we'll whatever this current issue is they're dealing with Harrow, that will lead them to Egypt. We'll get the backstory and the origin told as he's discovering stuff through that. And how that plays out, who knows? That's why I'm really excited. I really don't have any idea, but I have this like hope that by the end of everything, that Rubik's Cube will be solved, his personalities will be getting along, and he'll end up back in New York. Because how cool would it be to get this whole psychological disjointed origin story, and then if they do a season 2, we get to have traditional Moon Knight doing his whole operation in New York City. Because they could do this for years and years if they wanted to after they got that set up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Frank as well. Yeah, what do you reckon will happen by the end of 6? We'll be left with?
I agree a lot with him. Basically, I felt like at the very last episode, a few things could happen. One, he'd be flying back to New York, and but also I don't know why I got this image in my head that maybe while he's flying off, you'll see like from the ground level, like what do you call it? Werewolf by Night, just watching him fly off or something.
Nice.
Somehow get introduced to Werewolf by Night coming into play. But I feel like he's gonna, all of his personalities or all of his alters are gonna come together and start working together. You made a great point. The fact that they're probably only there for a reason, and they're kind of trying to keep him in the dark. I didn't even think about that till you said that, and that makes a lot of sense.
It just hit me when like Harrow was referencing him as a mercenary. Like he's clearly been dealing with this dude for a minute. And he's tired of it.
They've had tussles. Yeah, I mean that's what it seems like.
Yes. So basically, I think he's going to get back to New York. I think he'll find Marlene.
Yep.
Maybe, and set it up for, like you said, next season to be what we know Moon Knight is. How he is. That's what I
definitely hope, and it sounds like there's enough interest in this show for it to push on. Oscar Isaac has said in an article he hasn't got the golden handcuffs, as he puts it, so he hasn't been contracted for extensive appearances in the MCU, but he said, depending on how this show ends up or goes, and whether there is enough interest in it, he might consider pursuing going further. Whether or not he's just talking about TV or whether that means the film as well, time will tell. Or maybe he's just keeping the cards close to his chest. But I absolutely love it as well. I go into his talk about this being very akin to Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man. So I reckon similar to Iron Man when he works on, he's got the Mark I suit and then he finally gets his final suit. My take is that we'll maybe get another suit towards the end of the episode.
I would be so thrilled if we saw him get to start putting together his own kind of suit.
Just making his own suit.
We started to get to see some of the tech.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't think we're gonna get a moon topper anytime soon, but it'd be really sick if we could.
What's crazy is as far as Mr. Knight goes, I remember in one of the teaser videos they had, like Mark or Steven falls out a window or something, and he turns into Mr. Knight before he hits the ground, right? And so that kind of leads me to believe that Mr. Knight, that persona, might be in his head. It might be someone that's not. He probably doesn't look like that in the suit to everyone. Possibly, it might be just what he sees himself as, and maybe it just gives him something that gives him the power to handle a situation, and so I don't know if that's really going to be something that other people see it or not, because one of the other, I think the original trailer, his hand touched the bus and it was like a white glove, but are other people seeing this or not? It's kind of like
power of self-esteem.
Yeah. That's it. You just don't know, right? And I love it, this ambiguity that Moon Knight, the character, has already created just even before we see stuff. Sorry, again, CMK7, Chris drops in, same as I think most of us, Chad's going the globetrotting route. But might end up New York. Like, we might all be wrong, but who knows?
Well, the cool thing is even if he does end up back in his traditional New York role, he could always globetrot, and I think that's a wonderful thing about his character. Is unlike a Daredevil or I don't know, any of the other New York-based heroes, he has no reason to be tied to that city other than setting up a base.
Yep, and potentially introducing Jake as well. So that's because we all comic book fans know. Newcomers probably don't know at all about Jake, but that
Jake's
has
one of
to
my
be coming.
favorite.
Oh yeah, mine too.
I saw somebody yesterday on Reddit. They said, I'm praying so hard that if we do get Jake in the show, we get to see Steven bend over and put on a mustache and come back.
I want the mustache and I want the hats and
Oh man, the fake mustache would be so goofy. It'd be so fun.
It'd be great if we saw Gina's Cafe eventually too.
I would love to see Gina and her kids, like, to get them worked into the show would be a blast.
And Crawley and his tea bag. Just
his
sitting there. His tea bag. You got to have his tea bag, man.
It's funny because when we saw Crawley at the fountain or whatnot, and I didn't know it was the first watch. I didn't know that was Crawley until I read in the group, and I went back and I was like, oh, okay. But I was looking for the flies. Like, where's the flies?
Yeah, you know the flies. Yeah, exactly.
He's known for having his flies around him.
Exactly. He smells. I also just love the fact that Crawley is so articulate and so talkative in the comics, yet they made him a statue busker in the show, something completely opposite where he doesn't speak at all. I think that was really cool.
I think the writer's Justin Benson. Is that the
no, Jeremy Slater.
That's Jeremy Slater. So he'd said something, and I think Noel had posted it. Whether it was in the group or not, doesn't really matter. But it was the writer saying that he had so much fun writing for a character that hasn't been introduced yet.
Yeah.
And I mean, Frenchie for sure would be really fun to write for, but I can't imagine as a show writer how much fun he could have writing Crawley's dialogue. And I'm just fingers crossed that that's who he's talking about, because Crawley's dialogue is honestly one of the things that sucked me into Moon Knight when I started the comics.
Oh, he's funny. He's funny. Awesome. I just want to also shout out like the likes of Kevin Feige and the studio, because exactly what you say, Drew. This is a character that not many people know, but Marvel have allowed this freedom. They've kind of extended the leash to these showrunners to, you could easily have a studio go, okay, look, people don't know, let's play it safe. But they're actually allowing these creators to do what they want, which I think is so important. And you actually get quality stuff rather than just your generic kind of, formulaic TV show. So full props to whoever is involved in allowing that to happen.
Yeah, like that time when they're in that ceremony, or what we want to call it, like the gathering, when Arthur's judging people, and then when they're all onto him and they're rushing him to do whatever, take the scarab from him, and then he like blacks out and boom, he's back. His hand was so bloody.
It was gross. I honestly, I know the Falcon Winter Soldier decap scene was like pretty brutal, but I looked at the screen, and between the guy just bleeding out of his head on the ground and the amount of gore in Mark's hand, that might have been the most blood on screen for any Marvel property.
That's why I was like, holy crap.
Granted, that's a measly amount in the grand context of things, but for a Disney Plus show, it was pretty cool to see.
Oh yeah, my barometer was actually Eve next to me, and like when that happened and he held up that bloody hand, Eve just went, oh.
Well, and like the scarab's wings are out, so like I started imagining, like, did he just like chop into all these dudes' necks? Like, those people are like, Mark has a body count of at least 10 to 15 by the end of episode 1.
Yeah.
So he's not punching people, knocking them out. He's killing people for sure.
Oh yeah.
Oh, he's got to be up there as one of the more deadlier humans, in the MCU at the moment. I mean, he's racking up the body count, and he's ruthless. He's not, he doesn't have a no-kill code.
Midnight Suns could be a great thing, because like that team is awesome.
Henry on the YouTube comments just mentioned that too.
Yeah, I saw that.
I know Oscar in a couple interviews has been asked, would you want to see Moon Knight link up with the Avengers in the future? And in every interview he goes, I'd rather see him with the Midnight Suns.
Yeah.
And granted, he's clearly knowledgeable of it. He knows what that is, and he's excited about the idea of that becoming a thing. Obviously he's not going to say anything because it's Marvel, but I don't feel like he would be referencing it if it wasn't a possibility.
Yeah, multiple people have referenced it. Like, and Isaac himself said something like he would like to see that, which is weird because in the beginning he said he's never heard of Moon Knight, but now he knows about that. So like he must be looking at it for a reason, maybe for source material, or maybe because that's in the talks. as
Well,
a
and what's
possible
cool is I've seen both him and Ethan, which you don't see the actors in the MCU say this too often outside of like Elizabeth Olsen, who's a big Scarlet Witch comic fan. Like they've both openly said they signed on to the project out of interest, and they both now have gone back and specifically referenced the comics for their characters.
Oh, lovely.
And I
Yeah.
love seeing that because that
Yeah.
obviously feeds into the writing, because since everybody's so involved in making these projects.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I just want to also go back to that scene. Sorry, just touching before I forget again of the Harrow in the village and the Scarab, the blood in the hand. I want to shout out also another DRD system in our group, Jaybird or Calcist as well. I don't have it here in front of me as well, but they referenced that passive influence that you could have. They said it was done in a more comical way, but that moment where Mark or Stephen is trying to give the Scarab to Harrow, and his body just won't let him. I thought that was a brilliant, it had very much comedic value, but I was glad to hear from a DRD system that was not just fabricated, that there's something that certainly can happen, albeit, exaggerated in this instance. But a big shout out to Jaybird as well. Thanks so much for all your thoughts on the DRD system too.
Definitely.
very,
like,
very.
that was very funny, but also it's good to hear that, like, obviously they're hamming it up for the show, but it's good to hear from another, DID system that, like, it's television for sure, but it's nice to know that they're still portraying it kind of accurately.
There's a realism to it. Yeah.
And much props to Isaac for being able to like do that. Like just the way he like fighting, fighting yourself. You know, what I mean? It was like it shows the caliber of an actor he is.
Oh, he must have had so much fun acting like that. Like, and even these little, I'm sure the improv bits where he's going, "Oh, my fingers seem to be frozen. It must be the altitude." All this kind of ridiculous.
His little comments like that, like the anime, like this. He's like, it's kind of like it's not really like said like he's reading a script. It's more like it's kind of like he's like. It's hard to explain, but it makes you feel like he's real, like a real person.
Yeah, and I reckon
it sounds like a defense mechanism. Like he's just trying to throw out some smoke screen to give him a little bit of leeway.
I really like when Harrow finally just said, Steven, stop it.
Full on straight face, like stop it. Like, can you imagine Ethan Hawke just cacking on the inside, like because Oscar's just acting so well. But yeah, I mean, there's those little tidbits. I just want to shout out a couple just from the Facebook group. Raymond Strong, guys, did he just throw the gun? I mean, that was a really hilarious bit as well.
It was super funny. I think it might have been Rebecca was like, to be fair, the normal person in the UK doesn't use guns, so he wouldn't know what to do.
That's true. Yeah. That's true.
I didn't even think about
maybe he tried to fire it, but to the safety of
it. It shoots if you throw it. Yeah.
One thing I wanted to say, I don't know if this has to do with the censoring of Disney or what the situation was, but I want to say it's when he was inside that cupcake truck. But he says, "Oh shit," but he says, "Oh," and like he mouths shit, but he doesn't say shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know if they did that on purpose, like for the viewers or whatever, or what.
Yeah, I don't know about the ratings.
They do that a lot. I think they did that a lot in the Hawkeye show too, where they'll get close to swearing and then something will cut it off.
Yeah. I could have sworn that they swore.
He did say shit once or twice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, they'll do that to like lessen up on the amount of cursing they have.
Yeah.
Like what the fish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. I don't know. Is there any other comments that you want to? I'm just kind of scrolling.
I got one about the Scarab.
Yeah,
so like one of the things is like on the list of like merch, you could buy the enamel pin of the crescent, and the Scarab is called a compass.
Yep.
So that's an interesting point that it's going to be used for like wayfinding to something. But also it looks like from the infamous random bullshit panel.
Yep.
The Scarab with the wings out.
Yeah.
Like he's got the throwing irons, he's got the Scarab out. I thought that was amazing.
So you're saying the Scarab was a compass in the okay, so
in the
think about
merchandise.
this. Okay, so that makes me think about the fact that there's fake ones and there's a real one. Maybe this is a real one that shows you something where a treasure is or something. But think about that show National Treasure, I think it was.
Yep.
Where they had like, they went and got like a fake constitution or whatever it was.
Yeah.
In order to a replica in order to like replace it. I think maybe there's a possibility that they can use one of these fake ones from the gift shop or whatnot to trick Arthur into thinking he has the real one or whatever.
Yeah, that's true as well. That could well be. I mean, it certainly is a point of interest. I mean, for sure, Harrow wants that scarab. As for what it does, it obviously has some value. We've seen in the trailer as well. It levitates, right? And he's holding it. It levitates. It drops into his palm. So he's got it somewhere. I mean, like he's got a reason that he wants to use it. But yeah, good pick up there, Chad, as well. I'm so lucky. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Something else that was kind of crazy to me is he went to the steakhouse. His boss, she said something about him being a vegan and not eating steak, right? But he went to the steakhouse for his date.
Yes.
Of course, he was in the wrong day or whatnot. So what happened is he ended up ordering the steak anyway. I didn't even think about it the first time. It didn't even come to my head. But the second or third time, I'm like, wait, he ordered it anyway, and he doesn't eat it.
Well, and to go off that, what really hit me the second time is like, first of all, let me just say this. Obviously, I am biased because it's Moon Knight, and I care about the character. I know what's going on, but like, I have never cared so much for a character within an hour of them being on screen than I did at that dinner scene. And a lot of that has to do with the writing and Oscar's facial acting when he is like having his breakdown. It's just expertly done. And the first time I watched it, when he's ordering that steak, I just kind of took it as like he's so disoriented and upset that he's just saying fuck it. But the second time I watched it, there was a black comedy to it when you realize he does, like, yes, he's having a mental breakdown, which is why this is so difficult. But he's also stumbling through what he's doing because he doesn't know how to order a steak. He's never eaten steak.
Exactly.
It's a really wonderful play on black comedy.
It's so well done.
He's like, I'll have the good bit, or the best.
Yeah, the good bit. Yeah, is that well?
Man, his facial expressions during that are unbelievable.
I think
I saw this thing Oscar said where apparently he has like an uncle who suffers from really intensive mental issues, and he watched it with his uncle, and when they got through that scene, his uncle was weeping and basically told him like, that's how I feel.
Yeah,
it's like and I really hope this show does things for people who are struggling like this.
Wow.
Yeah. It was. I think it's one of the highlights and one of the best scenes. You got, in that episode.
It really hammers home how scary it would be to like imagine losing 2 days of your life.
Yeah. Yep.
And not like that would it should be horrifying. It wouldn't be goofy. It wouldn't be funny. It would be extremely sad.
And the fact that he's already socially awkward and he has this huge opportunity to go on a date with a very attractive woman. He's so excited. He dresses up, he gets in front of the mirror. He buys a box of chocolates, of flowers, and just to be crushed like that, because a part of you would be blaming yourself because like, why wasn't I there 2 days ago? Other part of you would be going, where did those 2 days go?
Yeah, that's the thing. Because like, if you do something wrong and you mess up a date, okay, well, I messed that up. But to feel like you lost an opportunity that it was beyond your control of why it was messed up, like, but then it is your control, but it's not your control. It's like it's gotta be a mind fuck for lack of a better word. But it's like how like.
Have any of you guys seen the theories that Jake was the one who set up the date?
That might be. I mean,
I assumed it was Jake. I mean, Steven.
Well, because Mark. If Mark and Layla were a thing, which it seems like they were, Mark wouldn't be looking for dates while he's in control.
That's a good point.
And we all know what Jake did to Steven with Marlene. Basically, cheating on him and had a baby. Like that's the craziest thing. Like he cheated on himself. He cheated on. I can't put into words. Like that was like the most craziest thing. Like,
I know. That was absolutely crazy.
I love the idea of Jake being. I love the idea of like because it. Jake's got some asshole swagger, and I love thinking of Jake walking through the museum, setting up this date, and then that woman coming up to little dorky Steven when what she talked to is Jake Lockley, and I can't imagine the contrast.
And him suggesting the best steak in town, probably knowing Steven's a vegan as well, just to mess with him. So it's a fantastic scene. That one, I
can't wait till Jake comes out. I can't wait.
Yeah,
Man.
and to see more of because Oscar has showed so much range already in this one episode. He's got so much to play with. Yeah, let's just wait and see. If and when Jake turns up, it will be
On the
quite interesting.
topic of Jake coming out, though,
Mhm.
do you think he'd also have his own Moon Knight persona? Like,
That's
would
a
they
great
reuse that
question. That is a
mask
great.
face?
That's a great question.
Yeah, that's a
I
good
would
question.
love to see it. I mean, we've got to be surprised, right? Marvel don't give away everything. We've got the costume, we've got Moon Knight already. We've seen Mr. Knight in the trailers. There's got to be something that they are just not telling us. I just want to see bang, episode 6, and we're going, okay, my God. So yeah, Chad, I reckon there's a high possibility. I'd love to see it too.
Are you shaking your head in a subtle cue?
I was going to say,
No,
how
I'm
is
not
having
giving
these
anything
talks?
away.
How is having these talks knowing that you've seen 3 more episodes than us?
All I can say is that, look, I am Gus, so memory is good when there's a lack of it. So, but no, it is interesting. I am having to tread carefully, but it's fun. I'm just living in the episode 1 moment again. It's fantastic. So,
One thing I want to say real quick about when he was trying not to sleep and he was listening to those books or that ebook or whatever it was.
Mhm.
And there's a part where it says, "Is there an exciting chapter you would like to be a part of?"
Yep.
And at that point, I don't know how to say that word. Enid pops up like on the screen.
Yeah,
So
and it also shows him like taking his finger along the subtitle on that page, and it says something about the rift between man and God.
So what do you reckon that means, Frank and Drew and Chad? What do you?
Maybe the KHONSHU. I think maybe the KHONSHU, the missing pieces, like they're saying KHONSHU. Maybe KHONSHU, his altar of KHONSHU, because KHONSHU is kind of like one of his altars in a way, in a way too.
No, yeah, he's in his head as well, I guess. Yeah.
So like maybe he's saying that he wants to be part of that, or he needs to be part of that, or he should be part of that, or he's a part of it by being the avatar. I don't know, but he went to that when it asked, "Is there a certain chapter you would want to be a part of?"
Yeah, it certainly makes you think, doesn't it? I mean, it certainly does raise questions, and we've said as well, what is real and what isn't. I mean, when Mark and Stephen first meet at the end of episode 1, Stephen's going, "Oh, this is not real. This is not real. You're not real. We don't know." So yeah, it's very exciting.
Also, how good was that? Like, I didn't notice the first time that like he really is freaking out and smacking himself and trying to get himself out of it. And Mark, the way they did the sound where it's building and building and building, and Mark, somebody pointed this out on one of the Facebook groups where like, you don't yell at somebody who's having a panic attack. You don't talk down to them. You talk firmly and assertively and like a teacher. And the way Mark looks him straight on and he goes, Steven, listen to me. And you hear the soundtrack close off and go, psh. And then he's like,
with the focus.
Let me save us. The way they did that was wonderful.
I love the let me save us bit, because again, I'm not sure if it was Lena or not, mentioned the fact that you can, like, alters can relinquish control. It's generally a dialogue that they have, and it's not Mark demanding that he take over the body. Like he's actually asked Steve.
It's him letting him know
way,
for the best that he does.
Yeah, let me do this. So I like that dialogue too.
Yeah, that whole scene, that whole bathroom scene, was excellent. Like,
man,
I was getting pumped
when that sink got thrown out at 50 miles an hour, I was like, "Oh, let's fucking go!" Also, they never showed in the trailers when he. So first of all, the jackal trying to escape the bathroom.
Yeah, he gets dragged back.
Like the way I've seen people put it is that jackal is about to destroy this dude, and now he is seeing the one thing that the monsters are scared of. And he throws him back and kicks him in the face. So I was like, that is our Moon Knight right there.
It is. It was beautiful to see.
Because that thing, look, that's a creature of the night that should have no fear of anything.
No,
for it to fear him.
Horrified.
That tells you how like powerful, strong, and frightening.
Yeah,
like
it also shows that these monsters know what Moon Knight is, which is pretty cool.
Yep, it's familiar. Yeah,
in the comic books, all the time when people get into his mind, like that janitor and everything, once they get into to Mark's mind, they can't deal with it. No one can deal with that.
Yes, that's right. Yep, and Harrow as well. When Arthur Harrow uses the scales to read Stephen, he says, we've seen in the trailer, there's chaos on you. So I love that callback that no one. He's a particular case, Mark Spector or Steven. There's just something about him that he's a bit of a unique
Wild
one.
card.
A wild
So
card, yeah,
TMK7
absolutely.
just said, monsters look under their bed for Moon
Yeah,
Knight. And it
absolutely.
kind of reminded me of in the Ellis run when he hunts
Yes.
down the boogeyman, and then you get to
Yeah.
see the boogeyman begging for mercy for Moon Knight.
Yeah.
I just am excited. Like, if this jackal from the depths of the underworld is terrified of Moon Knight, like that means
Yeah.
he has a reputation already. And
Yeah.
I'm excited to see that. So like Mark already has a reputation amongst people as like the mercenary who's dabbling into their shit. Clearly these monsters are terrified of Moon Knight as an entity. So like there's a
Yeah.
lot of history being set up subtly, and I'm really excited to see what's been going on.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah,
love
me
Moon Knight. I
too.
loved him for a long time, and I've always known that if others were to really see what he's about, that they would love him too. Because like it's like,
Yeah.
how can you not like love how great of a character, how in depth it is, how many different
Yeah.
angles it goes, and it's just like he's a perfect character to me. Like there's
Yeah.
no better
No.
character in my opinion.
Absolutely. I mean, this takes us to a good spot. I guess rounding out now, we'll got to wrap up. But
I was going to say we'll go for 3 hours if we don't.
Yeah. I was about to say.
I'm
I mean,
down.
Frank, that was a fantastic summary, I guess, of your thoughts on Moon Knight and stuff as well.
I like how
I guess-
we, without thinking on it, wrapped up at the end of the episode too.
yeah, exactly as well. Just final thoughts. I'll go around as well. Chad, final thoughts on the episode or what's ahead.
Final thoughts. I thought it was a great depiction of a great story. I don't think it's a particularly prime rendition of Moon Knight. That's just me. I enjoyed it a lot. Don't get me wrong. But as far as where we're going, I think it's going to get a lot better because I don't see them just toying around with these concepts for one episode and then getting no kind of reprisal. So I think it's going to get better to my sensibility, and then I think that long term we're going to have a lot of character maturity develop between the different alters, as well as I think that the on brand with a lot of Marvel properties, the villain is going to seesaw in his morality. Because that's going to be the case everywhere you go. Winter Soldier got a lot of like empathy and changes stances, and that's just what they do.
Yeah, no,
stereo.
Yeah, sure. A lot of exciting stuff ahead, and obviously, again, not giving anything away, but yeah, Chad, it's consistent. It gets better. Whatever. It doesn't go bad. Don't worry. I mean, in the other episodes to come, it's a great ride. Looking forward to seeing it again. Drew, final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously loved it, and we've chatted a lot about this before. Like Ray, I got into comics because I was into comics my whole life, just never really collected or deep dove into them, and the MCU got me to finally do that. And so I have a lot of not disconnect, but like when the MCU changes things, I'm less affected by it than a lot of the hardcore comic readers. So I understand both sides, and I really love what they're doing with it so far. I think they're doing it in a way that's the most appealing to people who don't know. And I feel like they're going to continue getting better about the accuracy. And like, I remember seeing a red carpet interview with the director, Mohammed Diab, and he straight up said, like, ultimately, I want people to enjoy this because this isn't my show. This is your show. And I wanted to do the best I could to be right by the comic book fans. And, if it doesn't stay super accurate, people like me, that's fine, as long as the story's good and well done. But I'm really excited to see where it goes. And knowing that, and I know they just like to put this stuff out there for headlines and things about like not having contracts for this to be a permanent thing.
Yeah.
But I think that's a benefit for this because they knew to go balls to the wall, all out, making sure this was the hit. That way, if it doesn't continue after this, that's fine because they nailed this first shot. So I feel like they're going to really do their best to knock it out of the park by the end of it.
Definitely.
Better words cannot be spoken. I hope so too, and I hope we get plenty more. But you're right, we're going to get quality stuff for this first time going round. Frank as well. Yeah, any final thoughts?
Well, one quick little thing is, I just wanted to say this earlier, but the delivery truck had the steering wheel on the left side, like American style.
Yes.
I'm wondering why that was. But then
Good.
again, it could be because of
Good
this.
catch.
Could be
Yeah.
because
Oh
everything's backwards.
no,
Like,
actually, no. Sorry. Only the UK over in Europe have it on
Oh,
the
really?
on the
Okay, I
right
did
hand
not
side.
know
Yeah,
that.
all the other Europeans, yeah, have it on the other
Okay.
side as well.
That's
But,
actually I
yeah.
never knew that. So
Yeah.
I didn't know. I thought the whole world, because I know how America's like. We do everything different. No metric system, no this, no that. Like, we do everything
No,
different.
it's only Australia and the UK. We have the steering wheel on the right side.
Okay.
As far as I know, from the Western perspective. Yeah, I don't know the other countries, but
Got you.
yeah.
But yeah,
Yep.
same here. Like me, like I would, like Drew. I was never really into comics at all until Moon Knight, because my buddy Adam, he was telling me, he told me about Luke Cage and these other characters I might like, and I liked them. But once I found Moon Knight, I was talking to you, Ray, about how that connected to me, and so I also don't really care much about when the alternate story, I mean, when the origin stories don't match up. I really don't care because I'm not really into all the other stuff as much. But Moon Knight is like, that's all I really care about. So this is the first time that things being changed, kind of I got the effect of it. But at the same time, knowing that you have to make some changes for movies and for shows, and for new audiences to understand and grasp or whatnot, I'm accepting of it and seeing where it goes. Like Drew said, if it's a good story, I'm gonna like it. Like if it's something's not perfect or perfect like the comics, that's fine. Because when it comes to comics, there's different writers, so everyone has their own perspective. So there's gonna be
yeah, somebody
hypocrisy.
said in the Facebook group the other day, especially with Moon Knight, everybody who's written Moon Knight has written him a little bit differently.
Yes.
And this feels to me almost more so than a lot of the MCU shows. This feels like a comic book. And it feels like a different writer's take on a character. And I think a lot of that is because he's not necessarily tied to needing to force in the MCU references and to remind you of everything going on, which allows them to just write a story.
Yeah, he certainly has a lot more freedom in that regards, and the fact that again, not being that well known. So yeah, it's a perfect mix, I think, and I think we're really benefiting
fresh
from it. Yeah,
because
exactly.
like a lot of stories, a lot of stories when it comes to comic book movies and stuff and shows, like it'll go perfectly with what the comic says. Some of them, there might be little changes, but for the most part, like what's going to happen next because you've seen it all. You read it all already. But this is good because I don't really know where this is going. The actual villain is a villain, but not the villain not the same villain. You know what I mean? Like it's not the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
And with
different.
With my full respect to the diehard comic fans too, I'm really excited to see by the end of the season how they feel about everything, because I understand where they're coming from too, and I'm really interested to see if the way that they do things appeals more so to the comic diehards by the end of it.
Yeah,
it bumps me out when I see these people who immediately write it off as dog shit because it didn't match what they wanted.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you're not putting up millions and millions of dollars to make this, so maybe just enjoy it.
I mean, we'll see, and that's exactly why we have these panel discussions as well as reaction episodes. So I can't wait as well to discuss it again towards the end after the episode 6, just to get everyone's thoughts on it. It's really fantastic. Thank you so much, Loonies, for sending your thoughts in, staying active, getting the buzz happening, and I'll. Guys, I'll have to thank you so much as well for coming on to the show too.
Of course, thanks for having us on the first one, man.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Really fun. Hope to have you on in many future episodes as well. We've got, as I mentioned, we've got panel discussions of the show shortly after the reaction episode. So we've got two episodes worth every week for this TV show, and we've got the comic coming out in Wednesday on Wednesday as well.
Yeah,
I'm really excited to watch the podcast grow for you, Ray. I really think it's going to pop off over the next couple months.
Yeah, it's been fantastic so far. It's exploded statistic-wise. Let's just say that. I'm very happy with that. Having said that as well, thank you so much, everyone. Chad as well. Thank you so much. I know you got some work to do as well.
Always more work.
As well. Frank the Tank, great to see you. Great to chat with you for the very first time. obviously welcome whenever we can make it work and whenever you're keen.
Whenever you need me on there, I'm down. I'm down. If I'm not at work, I'm
you
down.
beauty. Yep, don't worry. And I've still got to teach you some Aussie lingo. So
yes, I'm looking forward to
that. And turntables, as always, rock solid. I'd love your thoughts. Yeah, just so fun just to chat with other Moon Knight fans. So,
man, it's let me tell you, I'm sure my roommates and close friends are thankful that I got to get a lot of this out to people who wanted to hear it. Because I've just been blabbing nonstop for a week to people that were interested but maybe didn't care this much. So thank you very much for having me on.
No worries. You have a great outlet here, and a big thanks, Chris, as well. Great to have you on board as well, Chris. Great to get your thoughts. Everyone's floored at your animations, so thank you so much for your contribution too. CMK7, Chris, just saying that he can't wait for the next episode too. Loonies, I'm not going to bore you with all the paperwork towards the end. It will be in the show notes. But a big thank you, of course, again to all our patronies. I want to shout out their names, a couple of them here as well: Daniel, Drew, Frank, Justin, Derek, Kyle, Wayne, Jordan, Josh, James, Anthony, Russell, Michael, Mario, Gavin, and Matthew. Huge thank you once again. Our sponsors, as mentioned, check it out. They're flashing in big flashing lights in our show, and we're part of the collective too. So go check out those other shows. A couple of comments there left by the Tomes of Evil fellas and Trapped in a World, Howard the Duck podcast. Having said that, guys, thank you once again, and everyone, may KHONSHU watch over the denizens of the night. Catch you later.
Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information, or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.